But as always, it's important that we have a recap, see what you can remember and what I can tell you about what happened in part one. First of all, Corrie's father was called Casper. Now, can anybody remember what Casper's job was? Yes. Clockmaker, close. He was a watchmaker, but it's almost the same thing. But he's very close. He messes with time. He makes sure he sorts things out, make sure you get him at the right place at the right time. So he was a very kind and skilled watchmaker. And do you remember how many kids him and his wife Corrie had? Do you think it was 3? Okay. Do you think it was 7? You're right, it's not 7, it's not 3. Was it 5? The answer would be right if you did say yes to 5. He had 5 children: Betsy, Wilma, Hendrik, who sadly died when he was a child, when he was a baby, Nolly, and Cornelia. But Cornelia was known as Corrie. And also Corrie's mum was also called Cornelia, and so Corrie's mum would be called Corrie. Many people knew her as Corrie. So there was Cornelia Corrie and Cornelia the younger, the daughter, who is Corrie, and that's the story that we're going to be looking at, Corrie ten Boom's story. Now, the family lived in a shop known as the Beige, the Beige. Something along those lines, and the streets. That's because it was a shortening of Bartel Juristrat, 19. Bartel Juristrat 19. That was the street. It was a shortening of that. Now you might be wondering, how does Beige be? How is that shortened from Bartel Juristrat? Is because it's a B and a J, and in Dutch B isn't pronounced as B as we would say in English. It'd be Bay, and in J you don't say J in Dutch, you say Yay. So that's why it's Bay. That's the shop that they lived in, and they grew. She loved him. I gave that clue. I was going to ask you a question about whether or not you thought she was a watchmaker, but I gave her away. Yeah, she grew up loving her father, and she herself was a watchmaker too. In fact, she was the first female watchmaker in Holland, first qualified female watchmaker in Holland, and Holland is in the Netherlands, by the way. So. I mention that now because I'll say the Netherlands later, and I don't want to confuse you. So that's where it's based. And so the ten Booms were a very strong Christian family, and they also loved to help the people around them. They keep the house open to so many people. Just helping those who are in need. Now, another question that came from last week. Did Corrie ever want to marry? When she grew up, did she ever want to marry? Yes or no? I'm seeing a nod. Yes, that's true. She did. Her brother introduced her to a friend of his known as Carl. But Corrie's heart was broken because. And her brother was named Willem, and Willem had warned Corrie that this might happen, but basically Carl, he came from a very prestigious, wealthy family, and his family wanted him to marry somebody else that was similar, so another wealthy sort of person, and sadly for Corrie, he ended up marrying someone else, so it really broke her heart, and she decided that she's not going to marry anymore, and she focused on other things, and specifically we're going to look at one of the biggest thing that she focused on through this story. And so as they grew up, Casper, Corrie's dad, Betsy, and Corrie, they were the only ones that remained in the house. But Nolly would visit often. She'd often come to the house. And it was actually on one of those visits that Nolly, when they were listening to the radio, they heard bad news on the radio. Can anybody remember what that was? Yes. World War Two. Was you gonna say the same thing too? Yeah, I knew. I could tell that you was. Yeah, World War Two was beginning, and that's what they heard on the radio. But Casper thought of well, yeah, what happened in 1940? I'll come back to that question in a second. But Casper thought it should be fine because the Netherlands at that time was a neutral place. So he thought we should be fine. We shouldn't really be affected too much by World War II. But can anybody guess what happened in 1940 in the Netherlands? Yes.
Adolf Hitler just invaded Poland, but he tried to invade the Netherlands.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. Wow, Adolf Hitler, you said eventually came to invade the Netherlands, and that's exactly what happened. Be a great historian, that's exactly what happened. The Nazis invaded the Netherlands, and the war came to the Ten Booms. And that's where we left off last week. That was a quick recap. Let's see what happens next then. Well, it wasn't long until you started seeing Nazi flags and propaganda, meaning all this like bad news that the Nazis were given all throughout Harlem. Now Harlem this is the original Harlem because it's got Harlem in New York. I mean not in New York. Yeah, in New York. There's a Harlem in New York, but that's because at one point the Netherlands was in control of that part of the region, so that's why we have Harlem in New York. But this is Harlem in the Netherlands. And so the Nazi flags were all over across the streets of Harlem in the Netherlands. And Corrie was teaching a lot of the girls there, doing Bible study, teaching them about moral lessons. But one day, this German officer banned her from continuing. She said she can't continue teaching these girls. And she was also helping people with special needs, and she had to stop those activities too because of this ban from the Nazis. And what they started seeing, it wasn't long until they started hearing news of what Hitler was wanting to do to the Jews. There was rumors being spread that Hitler had captured many Jews and was doing absolutely horrible things to them. And they witnessed this, the Ten Booms. They saw some of their own loved ones, Jewish loved ones, being taken away, being thrown into trucks. And how they would identify the Jews was they'd put armbands, yellow armbands on them that had the Star of David sign, so people knew who the Jews were. And so they were rounded up and thrown into trucks. And it was really horrible for them to see, especially the Ten Booms, because they would have known some of these Jewish people. And so when Casper was seeing all of this, he felt that he needed to help. He felt called, that God was telling him that he needed to help the Jewish people, help them by helping them hide. And so when Corrie and Casper and Betsy, when they went back to the house, they prayed together over all of these things that were happening. And they said, they prayed to God. They said, anything you want from us, God, we will do. And they said, even if that involves them having to die to protect and save and hide these Jewish people. But the great thing was their house, their brick house, was unusually built. It wasn't built in a normal sort of way. So that meant there was some parts of their house that could easily serve as a hiding place. Because of the way that the house was built. So that was a great blessing there. And so that's what they started planning to do. They started creating a space, a secret place in their house that they could eventually hide the Jews in. And in May 1942, a Jewish woman was looking for help. Now, her husband months ago had been arrested. And so she was looking to hide with her son. And So she already knew of the 10 booms. The 10 booms were already known. Remember what we said before, that they always opened their doors up to so many people, and helped the Jews and many people in general. And so they knew of the 10 booms reputation, and they asked if they could be helped, and Casper agreed immediately. He said, of course. And around 800 Jewish refugees went through Casper's home. Like he helped. The 10 booms helped around 800 Jews by this time. Now, Corrie had asked for some rations, because that's how you got food. And the great thing was, in the past, she had helped the person who gives the ration. She'd helped this person's disabled daughter, and she initially was only going to ask for 5 rations, but she asked for 100 and actually got them. She was surprised. She got 100 ration cards, and this was an amazing blessing from God, because it allowed her to be able to give the Jews that they were hiding kosher food that they would view as holy for them to eat, and they were able to celebrate and honor the Sabbath day with them together. Now, where do you think they put the hiding place? Do you think it was in Casper's room? Do you think it was in Betsy's room? Do you think it was in Corrie's room? If you nodded your head to Corrie's room, you would be right. So they made the hiding place, the place to hide the Jews, in Corrie's room, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. Firstly, I will say that Corrie's nephew, William's son, he was also very key in helping save many of the Jews. He joined the resistance himself when he was 22. And back to Corrie. It was Corrie's bedroom, and the reason why they used Corrie's bedroom is because Corrie's bedroom was at the very top of the house, and so it was a great location because it gave them more time to there we go. Let me go back. Yeah, it gave them more time in case to hide the Jews when more raids would come, because it take the Nazis a longer time for them to eventually go up, and so they'd have more time to hide the Jews. And they also made sure that there was great ventilation in there, so they were able to breathe. And it was about 30 inches deep, the place that they would hide. And how did they hide them? Well, as you can see there, there's got like somebody's constructing a false wall, like a brick wall that has a gap behind it, and so that's what they ended up creating. And they'd make sure to conceal it, hide it they'll make sure to bring things in like creative ways, using newspapers and cases and a grandfather clock. They would hide things in there, so that the Jews were able to still receive the necessary things that they would need. Even the bookshelf, I almost gave something else away. Even the bookshelf as well had a sliding door, so that they could hide the things that the Jews would need. Now, can you guess what happened next? Well, do you know what? The answer to that question you will find out next week